All right, you want me to kick it off, Matt?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, we'll let him take that drink. All right. Is that a beer?
No.
No.
Water.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There, that's the intro. That'll be what we have at the beginning of the show. All right, here we go.
Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro. Brought to you by Public Safety and Education and the Trigger Pressers Union.
This episode is brought to you by Steel City Ammunition. Can't find ammo? We've got it. We'll ship it and our prices are fair. Mountain Man Medical. The right medical training and gear should be accessible to every American. Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by other fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone, to Meet the Pressers. My name is Klint Macro, and this is my esteemed colleague, Matthew Mallory. Meet the Pressers is a safe place for trigger pressers to congregate and talk about guns, gear, training, political activism, and sometimes religion. Matt, would you do the honors of introducing our special guest?
Most definitely. Brian Hill, the complete combatant. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Phenomenal. Now, you have a range, and is that Ohio, or remind me where that is?
It's in Dahlonega, Georgia, a place
Georgia.
nobody can pronounce.
Dahlonega.
That's why I
Sounds
said
like one of
Ohio.
Trump's wives.
It does, actually. We were actually just down in Georgia month and a half ago, something like that. And time runs into each other, doing a DSF, CCHDF, and Saber Red pepper spray instructor. So it was
Oh, cool.
it was hot.
Cool.
It was
Yeah,
hot.
when we were in
Yes.
Alabama doing the class, we were a couple miles north of the Nat line, and the Nat line was something I wasn't aware of until we went down there. So it was a little moist, the air anyhow, but it was a good time. Good people.
Not a fan of the gnats.
Yeah, the red clay looked like Mars. It was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Reminded me of my Oklahoma days back in the Army.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your backstory? What led you to be where you are now?
I've been a lifelong coach. I've been a professional mixed martial arts fighter, and I've also taught my whole life. I had a mixed martial arts gym, and which I closed down last year after getting COVID. It killed the gym, and then, of course, almost tried to kill me last year. So,
Well, actually, probably COVID almost killed you, but it was the overreaches of government that killed your business.
Yep. There's no doubt about that. Everybody disappeared from the gym pretty quickly when the plague hit. So, and we could have kept it open, but it would have cost us $10,000 a month, which is a tough nut.
Yeah.
You know, so the best thing was to close it down. Of course, I'm also a firearms instructor. I'm a master instructor under Tom Gibbons, range master instructor. I'm an assistant instructor for Modern Samurai Project, and I'm on the road teaching constantly myself. I teach at 4 of the national training conferences this year, and this is what I do full time. This is my full time gig. So
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool.
Now the range, the reason I reached out to you to have you on the show is to get some exposure for the range that you have.
Yeah.
You don't want the same thing that happened to your dojo to happen to that. So hopefully some of our viewers and listeners out there can lend a hand, help out, and if they can't financially support, at least they can spread the word and let other people know about it. So give us a little rundown on that, how the range started, what made you do the range? Because I have a range, but it's a private range, and I have my FFL, but I really don't do as much with my FFL. It's more of like convenience for my clients, my students that I teach classes for. So those I really haven't dumped a ton into, and I don't rely on those for income. My training is what I make my main income from. So I feel for you in that. So explain a little bit about that, the background on the range, and where we're at now.
Yeah, we have a range in Dahlonega, which is a beautiful mountain country right at the foothills of the Appalachians. And we've been there since 2012, but we haven't been doing it as a full-time business because I was splitting it between being on the road and then teaching martial arts also. So we teach private classes out of there, pistol, shotgun, rifle. And some of our neighbors have decided that we're too noisy, so they've come after our range. And as range owners, we're faced with a constant assault. Last year PayPal shut us down for no reason at all, and gave us no recourse in that. This year, they've come after us as a zoning issue, that it is an agricultural preserve, because there's no noise ordinance in it in Lumpkin County itself. So they say that we can't shoot there as a commercial business unless we get a special land use agreement from the county. So we had to go to a hearing. Unfortunately, I was exposed to COVID, so I couldn't go to the hearing. My wife had to go to the hearing, and it was quite a fiasco of people coming after us personally. Not only just the range, but personally with it. And it's a really tough situation, because a lot of small ranges like ours, we host some major trainers, and then we do a lot of introductory classes, and we make a big difference in the community. We teach pepper spray and medical and combatives, and then also firearms classes for people who just need to be safe and get home safely each day.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wouldn't think Georgia would be that way. You'd think Georgia would be like, everybody's carrying a gun, shooting a gun in their backyard, left and right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite interesting. Is it just the demographics of it? Is it kind of like where you've got the liberals moving into cities, and you just happen to be close to a city where that's the problem?
I wish I could say the neighbors never approached us. They just went directly to the county. The feeling is that a lot of these neighbors have moved in from Atlanta. So they expect the country to be much more like the city, and are trying to change that. But, we recognize they have a right to some quiet too. So we really want to compromise with them, and we want to make this as fair as possible. So it's a very difficult situation, but it was one of those things where I think if we'd had a discussion before we got to this legal part of it, we would have had a solution. But that's not how people handle things anymore.
No, unfortunately, it's not.
Mm.
Yeah. Back in the days when people would bring their problems to one another and they resolve it like men, that's not what we see these days. Yeah. So, I mean, Georgia, of course, is a different state than New York or Pennsylvania. We have laws here that protect ranges. If they've been there first, they kind of get grandfathered into situations. Were these people that are complaining, were they there before you, or were they there after? Or
yeah, some of them have been there before us. It's one of those things. We have a Range Protection Act, but since they've come after us as a zoning problem, it doesn't really protect us from this certain thing. So they're saying it can't be a commercial business because it's a preserve. But they can grant special land use, and it looks like we've made most of the things that the zoning and planning has asked for. But we're also doing a big GoFundMe program so that we could do a lot of range improvements, put up berms, put up trees, really try to isolate the noise as much as we can. We have an overhead cover that also needs to have some insulation put into it. And I think we could really change the noise with it. But, if people think about Georgia as a southern place, but Atlanta's not southern at all anymore. It's got 6-7 million people that live in a metro area, and most of them aren't from Atlanta. They aren't from Georgia.
Yeah. When you say the noise, limit the noise, our road noise is insane. I remember driving down some of the roads, and you see those big walls that are in place. I mean, that's the same concept as putting those trees up, just kind of blocks it or deflects that noise back, back in the direction that the noise is coming from. So it definitely sounds like you're in the right direction. And I'm now going to talk to my supervisor about putting some trees up on the side of the road, because back on that noise.
Trees will certainly help.
Yeah.
Trees and shrubbery. Yep. So tell us a little bit more about your methodology. Like if you had a brand new person that came in and said, "Hey, I want to buy a firearm to defend myself," how would you approach that individual? What's kind of like your kung fu?
No pun intended with a martial arts instructor, right?
Right.
Well, the big thing that is, I am a professional coach, which puts me in a different category. I've been teaching privately since 1980 was when I got my first job. And so I really focus in on how people work. I know a lot about neuroscience. I know a lot about cognitive improvement. I know a lot about performance. So I'm able to take people, and it doesn't matter whether it's a pistol or a knife or a stick, or they're going to fight with unarmed. We can improve their ability to make decisions under pressure quicker. We can improve their process. We focus on all three things, which is technical, psychological, and physiological, which allows people to really grow at a greater rate. If I've got a new person coming in, they're here for a reason. There's something that's happened in their life that's driven them to this, whether it's previous trauma. I grew up in a tough household myself. That's one of the reasons I went into martial arts. So we reach out, we recognize that. We do a lot of charity work through Rachel's Rest, which reaches out to people who've been abused either sexually or violently. And we reach a lot of people that come in for the first time. And what we're able to do is take them through the first steps of this journey and help them avoid all the problems and mistakes that we usually make as new gun owners. We're HK brand ambassadors. So HK has outfitted us with VP9 so we can teach the whole class. Holison's outfitted us with red dots for the whole class. Awesome. So we can take a brand new person and teach them all the intricate levels of self-defense, whether they just want to learn a proactive mindset, if they want to learn how to use pepper spray, if they want to learn some combatives, if they want to learn how to shoot. And what we're really reaching out to is that one lady that's got to walk through the garage by herself at night, that man who used to be healthy and hale, but now is got an injury and is on a cane, or somebody who really needs to improve. Now, I get a lot of high level shooters too, because I travel the country. But it's interesting. You're not a subject matter expert until you get about 100 miles away from home. So I'm sitting in Mississippi tonight while I'm talking to you guys, because I'll be teaching at Boondocks here, a red dot class. But at home, I often teach a beginner's class because that keeps me connected and grounded. And despite 40 years of coaching, I've got to remember what a beginner feels like and what it is like to shoot for the first time, and what a daunting experience it can. And if I can help them avoid the box of shame of holsters and bad equipment that we all go through, we can make a true difference with people.
Box of shame. I like that. So as an instructor, we're teaching an open enrollment. We've got lots of different people, but as a coach, you're tailoring a lot of what you're doing, or at least the way you're presenting it to suit the needs of that individual. What's your vetting process when you work with a new client, whether for whatever reason, whether that be for martial arts or shooting or whatever?
So I don't know if you're familiar with Craig Douglas's work. He has Managing Unknown Contacts. I call it Managing Unknown Clients. From the moment that I meet somebody, I watch them get out of the car. I watch how they talk. I ask them some questions. I get to know the person as quickly as I can, because as a coach, it's really the onus, the burden is on me to understand and bridge the gap to them as quickly as I can. And people learn differently. We're not a one system learner visually or auditory or verbally, but we tend to use the combination of the three. And the sooner that I can figure out what your needs and wants are, the quicker I can establish what I like to call an advocacy, which means I'm a support group for you, and I can be that extra set of eyes and help you grow quicker. And then we form a teamwork, which allows us to get over the part of the struggle real quick, and get into the release part where we can get to deliberate practice, and then hopefully get to a performance methodology that allows us to flow.
Nice.
Excellent.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, Craig's been a guest on the show. Craig's a great guy.
Yeah, I just did ECQC last weekend or 2 weekends ago. So
I think the proper term for Craig is he's a good dude.
Yeah, good
yes,
dude.
he is. Yes, he is.
So you've been coaching for a long time. What was the first thing that you coached? What was the first subject that you coached?
It was martial arts.
It was.
Yeah. So I've gone through every decade of martial arts. From Wing Chun to Kempo to Taekwondo to Karate to Japanese Jiu-Jitsu to submission grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to Muay Thai to true MMA. So the first job I had was Taekwondo. I hold 6 different black belts, 4 of which are 3 third dans and above in teaching. So I just love to teach, and I knew from a very, very young man that that's what I was supposed to do.
Very cool. A little history. Taekwondo is what I started with when I was a kid, and same rough household, and that's kind of what pushed me to it. So we've got definitely got a connection there on that.
A lot of us like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a place to control your anger and, use it only if you need to for self-defense. So a question for you then.
Sure.
Karate Kid. When we watch gun movies with guns in it, we're always saying, why'd they rack the slide again? When you watch the Karate Kid, are you critiquing it like we all do with gun movies and gun shows?
Well, it's really hard not to.
Right. Or Cobra Kai, I should say, because that's the new Karate Kid.
The funniest thing about the Karate Kid is Pat Johnson wrote that movie, and then he had to put on a Pat Morita wig so he could go out and do the karate, because the only Asian guy in the film couldn't do karate.
I did a movie with Pat Morita, and he touched everybody's ass on set.
Really?
Everybody's ass. Yes.
Wax on?
Something like.
He's just a touchy-feely kind of guy, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
He did spend more time with the girls, I will say that, but he touched everybody's ass on that film set at some point in time or another.
So you can say your ass has been waxed on and waxed off by Pat Morita.
Well, I suppose I can say it.
Will you? I don't know.
So what's something that you used to teach or you used to coach that you've now, whether it's because of new science or new experience or whatever, that you no longer teach that anymore?
Martial arts in general has changed tremendously. The UFC's changed the whole world of martial arts because we know what it looks like. It's the same way that's happening with the pistol right now. We're seeing the modern methodology of coaching happening with pistol. And I believe that the firearms industry is kind of in the personality phase still instead of the principle phase. And that's what happened in martial arts is we had to go to principle-oriented striking arts. It didn't matter whether your fist was turned slightly or it was straight up and down or whether your foot was at this cant. What we had to do is actually make the things work and find out what's possible for a human being to do that. So if you want to go through things I don't teach anymore, pretty much every martial arts I studied, I don't teach it as it was originally set up. We've taken parts of it. Wrestling is a strong base of martial arts now. It didn't used to be. Jiu-jitsu's fared fairly well against the onslaught of it. But, like shooting, I used to be a weaver shooter a long time ago. I used to be thumbs down, then I was thumbs up, then I was thumb forward, and now I'm at thumbs 45 degrees. So there is any body of work that's martial has to be living. And if it's not alive, that means that the founder's probably dead and that it's not going to grow anymore and that it's falling behind. It's becoming antiquated. And that really answers your question is the martial arts that stopped living, stopped pressure testing themselves. I stopped teaching.
Cool.
That's interesting. That kind of wraps back around to us as instructors and us continually keeping, us up on par and brushing the cobwebs off so that way we don't end up being stagnant. And I always tell my students that when you're looking for an instructor, whether you come back and train with me or not, whoever you train with, make sure that they're keeping up with their, taking classes. Like you said, you just did the one with Craig Douglas. So, I mean, it's perishable for us as instructors, just like it is for our students. So why wouldn't we want to keep brushing up on our, abilities and making sure we're learning new things and keeping up with the thing that's going to keep us alive and keep our students alive.
Yeah, one of the things that I found that's been very eye-opening and refreshing is working with new shooters or just new people in general who aren't looking at things through the lens of a gun guy, where they have this reverence to the way it was done. Like for instance, I truly believe in my heart, and there's no way for me to prove this, but I think if Col Cooper were alive today, I think he'd be carrying a modern striker-fired semi-automatic and 9mm that's polymer and without a thumb safety. And I think some people would want to beat my ass up in the parking lot over that. But we have this reverence for the way things were. But, if he were alive, I think we should assume that he would evolve and adapt and adopt new technology, things like that. So when you work with that new gun owner that doesn't have that reverence for the way it used to be or always was, they may say, well, man, I wouldn't grab a spatula like that. Why do you want me to grab a magazine like that? And it's like, wow, man, I never thought of that. That's actually a good idea. That makes sense. So working with those new folks, I've found to be very, very refreshing and useful. And of course, as you know, being able to work with people from different areas, different places, different backgrounds, it keeps us sharp because now we have to learn different ways to explain maybe the same thing too.
I love watching my students in class with pepper spray specifically, and I just tell them to take out the inert pepper spray and, handle it, get used to it. And you see them holding it like this and putting their finger through the ring. And, so you start talking to them, not like this, not like hairspray or Banaka,
Yeah, Banaka. That's not Banaka.
It will definitely freshen up your mouth. Speaking of that, our dog got a skunk the other day.
Ooh. So were you doing the tomato?
We did tomato. What else? Apple cider vinegar, baking soda, and dog shampoo, neem oil. But she got it, and I think the stench went all over the place because she ripped it apart like a rabid wolf.
Oh.
And I think she popped one of the sacks, and that's what got all over the place. So I don't think it sprayed her because she got it pretty quick, and we cleaned her up, and it's it's more just floating around in the air outside the house than it is on her, thank God. But yeah, it was going after the chickens, and she started freaking out. So I opened the door, and she was off, man. She caught that thing and threw it around like a toy.
So will a skunk just eat the chicken's head like a possum will?
I don't think so. I think they'll do more, but we've had a fox here that's killed 30 of our chickens. So we know when Molly's acting crazy like that, there's something out there. So it was middle of the day too. So we're worried rabies, but they also come out for their babies and stuff. The fox that I got was 3 times during the day, 7 a.m., 7 p.m., and 2 p.m. And they killed 30 chickens over a 2-week period.
So you don't have any chickens at your range, do you?
It's funny you mentioned that because my wife and I are building a house right down the street from the range, and that's what she wants is chickens.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a blast, man.
So a client of mine is hatching chickens for us right now.
Sweet.
So that when we move in,
cool,
we'll have chickens. Yeah. Sounds like great fun.
It is. How many are you doing?
I don't know. She's in charge of that. I guess she said 6, but I don't believe her.
Yeah. A handful's good.
I have 7. Yeah. I don't have near as many as Matt does. He's got a proper farm, but with
36.
With 7 of them that I have, we have 4 of them that lay regularly, and the other 3 are a little older and they lay occasionally. But we get 4, maybe 5 eggs a day. So like eggs, there's no better way to go, and they work for chicken feed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dad jokes.
Yeah.
It certainly is. Yep.
Dad jokes.
Dad jokes. Yep.
It most certainly is.
We went to the state fair and we picked up 2 guineas and a silky.
You can't say guinea. That's racist. Oh, you weren't talking about Italians.
Guinea fowl? Follow up with the right word? Yeah. So
Guinea fowl are not nearly as quiet as you think.
Oh, no. That's why we got them. They're better for ticks. They'll eat ticks more than the other chickens, and they're also loud. So if you hear them going off like a freaking alarm, then something's amiss somewhere there. We a minx or something got one of our guinea fowl, and then the other one just disappeared. So who knows what got that? So we're hoping these 2 last a little longer than the other 2 we got at the state fair a couple years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, we had a couple of roosters, which they get to be kind of nasty.
Yeah,
they reach a point in time where they just turn on everybody.
Yep.
And they were chasing my son around, so I wasn't cool with that. So I got rid of the roosters, and we got the guinea fowl because they're pretty territorial and they'll kind of protect.
They fly too, which is interesting. They fly when regular chickens don't really fly; they just coast.
But we thought they'd be quieter than the rooster, and so we ended up getting rid of the guinea fowl. Yeah,
you are mistaken.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So let's get back to your range. What all do you do at your range? What's the facility? How's the facility set up? What kind of shooting disciplines would you offer there?
So we have a large pistol berm, which is 16 targets across, and it's 25 yards deep. It has an overhead covering for the back 25, and the targets are movable. We have a 150-yard rifle range, and we have about 24 pieces of steel. From poppers to swingers to movers that are situated throughout that range down there, and we think that rifle had a lot to do with this because they're everybody's shooting a 9.5 inch with a muzzle brake right now, so those are really loud. And I think that did a lot of us. That's probably where a lot of the noise came from. So we only do rifle class twice a year, which sells out, and we've actually got another range we can do that at, but our range is well situated for it. And I don't know if you said you've been to Georgia. It's nothing but trees and hills. You can't get a 70-yard shot in Georgia because you can't see anything. So it's a beautiful piece of property with a creek rolling through the middle of it, and beautiful 100-foot berm in front of us, and it's wooded and nestled into the hills, and it's set up to do just about anything. We hosted Tom Givens and Scott Jelinski this year. So
now, did you purchase it originally to turn it into a range, or how did that transpire?
We actually leased it from a friend of ours, who's my one of my best friends. We've been friends since we were kids, and he has a cattle farm there. So both sides are cattle farm, and this is a valley where they can't do any cattle farming anyway. And then it's protected on both sides by hills. So they had already set up a shooting range there that had been there. So we just kind of adopted it and kept using it. And he was helping me out because changing businesses was rather difficult in my mid 50s. So, and it's nothing like having good friends that help you out with that. So, and now we bought a piece of property. We're retiring there. So
nice. Mid 50s.
Yeah.
So you just turned 50, just prior to that? Like,
yeah,
holy
56, cow. 56.
God bless you.
I don't have a drink, but here's the clean living.
Yeah, exactly.
Here we go.
Exactly.
Here's the clean living.
Yep, here it is. Clean living water.
Nice. Cool.
Well, tell us or tell everyone about the GoFundMe. What's the GoFundMe account? How do they find that?
If you go to,
I was just going to say, it'd probably be best to have them go right to your website, right? Is it right on your website?
It is on our website.
thecompletecombatant.com. So on here, I'm seeing on your website, I see the change.org. That's separate from the GoFundMe, but what's the change.org specifically that you have on there?
So we're doing a petition too that we want the range to say anybody's welcome to sign it. That'd be very helpful. And if anybody hears this that lives in Lumpkin County, if you could sign it, that'd be especially helpful because political people respond to their constituents when they get pressure on them like that. They did a good job of organizing this. The neighbors did before and not letting us know about it. So my wife is an extraordinarily good fundraiser and organizer. She's been doing this for charity forever. So she has done a tremendous job of getting a lot of people involved and getting it started. And she's just fantastic at this part. So I'm a good coach, but she's a much better organizer with stuff like that. So we're working hard to do what we can and put pressure on everybody and come to some sort of accord or compromise, which is a dirty word, I know.
Well, we wish you all the best with that.
Definitely.
I was just going to say, both Matt and I have gone through, we've been our own businessmen, and we've had ventures that were successful, and then some that weren't so successful. And you're very blessed to have a wife that's helping you out. That's definitely safe to say. And hopefully cool heads will prevail, and you'll be able to get past this hump in the road.
Yeah.
I just signed it for you. So
appreciate it.
Sharing it on Facebook too. And everybody out there that's listening and watching, you need to do the same.
You guys are awesome. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, no problem. Whatever we can do to help, and I'll be down in New Orleans next month for IACP. I think IACP, I'm going down there. I'm working pro staff for Mantis. So I'll be down that way. I'm flying down there. But we're going to New Orleans again in December. We're driving this time. So beginning of December, and then I'll be going down to Florida right after that. I'm teaching a UTM level 1 instructor, as well as a saber red pepper spray instructor down there in New Orleans in Florida.
Cool.
Yeah, I do the Mantis Dry Fire Monday videos for active self-protection. So
yep. Yeah, great.
I like
great
their
company.
product. It's a good company.
Yeah, it really is. Austin I started working like not officially, but before he even had his dealership, like he was looking for people to just kind of promote the product when it first came out. I was like one of the first guys in Pennsylvania doing that. And Matt's been working with them for years. And they were I think maybe the first official sponsor of our show too. Really good people.
Very true.
Yeah, very, very much so.
And it's a very useful product. I mean,
Hell yeah.
you know, people, especially with the ammo crunch right now, this is a great way to improve your skill.
Definitely. You know, the neat thing is they're always evolving, kind of like us as instructors, right? Always evolving and trying to find new ways to integrate their products into other things and come up with new products too. And they're really good about that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Do you have any classes or anything coming up that you want to pitch right now?
Let's see. We are on hiatus at my range until we get this figured out. So we'll have classes coming up. I think we have some scheduled in October. Our whole schedule's on the complete combatant. I'm in Utah next week for primary and secondary for their training summit. And then I think I got Arkansas coming up too, but that one may not have come off. So maybe not. Who knows my schedule? I've been to Anchorage, Salt Lake City, South Dakota, and now I'm in Mississippi. I don't know I didn't even know what time zone it was. When you guys reached out to me, I had to look at the clock. I was like, all right, I better make sure I'm in the right time zone for it. So
should show up an hour early.
Yeah,
everybody wants to be a traveling instructor until you start traveling.
I think I've done 15 states this year. How many you been, Matt?
At least one a month. I was just talking to my wife about that. So it's been 8. I think about 8. Yeah, there's a couple times in 1 month. I think 1 month I didn't go anywhere, but 1 month I went twice. But September I'm like 3 places. So September is going to be 3 different states.
Yeah, traveling around ain't like the Bon Jovi videos, let me tell you.
No, it's not.
But thank God for technology being able to keep us connected to family and make things a lot easier.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Very true.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show, man, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us here.
Hey guys, I really appreciate y'all, and I appreciate everything you do for the Second Amendment and for your show. And it was a great opportunity to be here, and the support alone makes me hopeful about people again. It's hard. This is, when you get stuck in one, I never wanted to be the political poster child, but I've been on the front of the newspaper now, and I find myself under intense scrutiny, and my wife also. And it's nice to know that there's a community that supports us and helps us out, and it gives you hope and faith in humanity again. So I appreciate y'all.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. We need to stick together for sure. There's less and less of us, and more they're taking ground from us. So literally and physically too.
Yep. A little bit at a time. It's all going away. So
very, very true. Awesome.
Well, thank you again for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure.
Stay safe. So Klint, you got some good news, I hear.
Yeah, there's some very interesting news. Well, first of all, congratulations to you and I. This is our 100th episode. Can you believe 100 episodes? 100.
Pretty crazy, man.
Yeah. Well, I just recently had something thrown at me, actually a couple months ago, and it was a huge, huge decision for me to make. As everyone knows, I've been my own boss for a very, very long time, actually 47 years old, and I've never worked for anyone. With, every one of my clients throughout the years, whether it be in the studio or working with folks with, people have contracted me to do classes. Of course, they're my boss for that time, but I've always been able to kind of close that job out and go on about my life. And just recently, the USCCA offered me a full-time position as a field training specialist. And we did a lot of talking about it, my wife and I. We went back and forth. I had prayed a lot about it and decided to go ahead and take the job. Trigger Pressers Union will still be a thing. As I've been booked up until, actually, I still have classes coming up that were pre-booked prior to taking on this gig. And the last couple months, I've been kind of doing 2 jobs, doing my trigger presser thing and getting my feet into this new role with the USCCA, or Delta Defense, actually, more appropriately. And it's been going great. I've got a handful of previously booked TPU classes coming up. But as soon as that's over, I'm going to be on a schedule of pretty much, I'll have weekends off. I can spend more time with my family. It's kind of interesting, we talk about God putting doors in front of us that give us signs. And one of the things that happened was when I taught my last class here at the studio, I tore down my classroom. Of course, those of you know, I would teach my classes in the tracking room of the studio. And when I was just doing trigger pressers to feed my family, the studio kind of fell by the wayside. And when I cleaned up the classroom and put the tables away and swept the floor, I set a guitar down in the middle of the floor. And I thought, yeah, I miss making music. And I swear, as soon as I said that, I looked at my email, and 2 of my previous clients that I'd made records with a couple years ago, both out of the blue contacted me and said, we want to come in and make a record.
That's awesome.
So that was kind of a sign.
Yeah.
The most bittersweet thing is with my new position is I needed to curtail some of my public-y things. And one of those was the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm stepping down as co-host. I'll still be involved in a producer level. I'll still edit the show and put together some of the music and help you to put the show together. And Trigger Pressers will always be one of the sponsors of the show. So it will still be brought to you by PS&Ed and Trigger Pressers. But
our baby.
This is actually my last episode as co-host. I'm still heavily involved with Firearms Owners Against Crime and Allegheny County Sportsman's League and the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association. FOAC actually this was another thing that happened right about this same time is FOAC has expanded, and we now have a new super PAC and an Institute for Legal, Legislative, and Educational Action. So we have some new divisions of Firearms Owners Against Crime, and that expansion is pretty exciting, and I'm taking on a bigger role with that as well.
Very cool.
So I'm sure whenever something political happens in Pennsylvania, I'll be coming back on the show to talk about that. While wearing that patch of Firearms Owners Against Crime.
Yeah. So don't fret, listeners and viewers. Show's not going anywhere. Clint's taking a back seat to it as far as doing the production still, which is awesome. So the same quality will be there. And going forward, we'll have guest co-hosts on the show coming on and bringing other people on to help me interview them. And, every once in a while, Clint will pop in to say hi and talk about politics and other
Political
nonprofit
activism.
stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
Political activism. Exactly.
Yeah, most certainly.
Cool.
So with that said, this will be my final sign off, at least in season 3 for as co-host.
And you got to say it.
Oh, I'm going to do it.
You got to do it, dude.
Yeah, I guess I got to do it.
Bidding of farewell. So you're going to say,
adieu.
There you go. Well, it's been a little baby of ours for a while, so it's going to be I'm glad you're still going to be involved with it, but
yeah, most certainly
going to miss seeing you and all your your electronics behind you.
Now we'll have to you'll do the co-host thing. We'll get some amazing people on the show, and then perhaps by season 3 you settle on someone that you want to have them take over that co-host role kind of permanently, and we'll continue moving forward and evolving, man.
Find somebody to fill those shoes of yours.
It's not fill their shoes. They'll just be their own thing, and it'll be a new butterfly, man.
New butter. I like butterflies.
Yeah,
except for when they eat
I'll
my
still
garden.
be here to bitch about their composition and the lighting quality. So we'll make sure that that's a thing.
Yeah. Well, in time for everything, I got a new backdrop, if people have noticed. So I'm kind of enhancing it, secure it back here over. There you go. Secure It is a new sponsor of the show, and this is kind of cool. That's going to have some guns hanging on there very shortly. So, and then so we're trying to add up, make it look better. I was trying to get it up to the level of your electronics, and everybody oohs and ahs about that. So I threw my Tommy gun. Dang it, it's so hard to point at things. Like, oh, here we go. Here it is. So I threw my Tommy gun in there, and I got Car Arms as a sponsor too, and they sent me a nice violin case for my Tommy gun. You can kind of see the hole for the 50-round drum magazine. Woo!
Yeah, look at that.
So,
well, there it is. So
there it is. Rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. Well, dude, I thank you for all the help and support you've given me throughout this process, and my life has been better since we've spent more time together, man. And I appreciate your friendship.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Clint. It's always good to have somebody of the caliber that you are to hang around with and bounce stuff off. And hopefully you don't get too busy to be able to still do such.
Yeah. There'll always be time for you, brother.
Aw, amen. Ditto.
All right.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too. Stay safe.
There's lots of sponsors that make this show possible, like Mountain Man Medical.
Check them out and give them your business.
This episode is brought to you by Steel City Ammunition. Can't find ammo? We've got it. We'll ship it, and our prices are fair. Mountain Man Medical. The right medical training and gear should be accessible to every American. Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by other fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Thanks for watching or listening to our show.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, click that little bell thingy so you know when the next episode's uploaded. Support us on Patreon. Come to one of our classes. Host us to come to you and do one of our classes at your location.
And until next time,
Adieu.
Thank you for watching Meet the Pressers.